Eddie, let me know if you don't want me to use your first part of your screen name here. I could always just make this video unlisted. And I won't talk in any specifics about just the things you posted on your comments. Sounds like you have been through some stuff, bro. Some hard stuff. You know, my story that led me to this is a bit different. But the impact of 10 years of just a decade stretch of major losses, one after another, without coming back up, you know, it changed me from a guy who was winning, who was killing it, who had all the potential in the world, to somebody who didn't know how to do anything but just cope by drinking and smoking. Let's see if we can get this crosswalk going. I'm out here just because the light's a little bit better along the main road. It'll be super dark in the neighborhood. So what you've gone through, like I said, it's different, but the impact, some of what we've experienced, I think, is very similar. The way, you know, I had completely lost self-belief, and the only route that I found for a long time was, you know, just to escape through you know, alcohol, weed, video games, junky food, you know, just anything to try to get a little bit of pleasure for a moment and not feel what the real world was. And I think that's a very logical response, especially going through such hardships. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about the path that I found that helped me start going in the right direction. And I think there can be a lot of value here. This isn't really easy, but I know that if this resonates with you and it's something that you find yourself able to commit to, that you do have the total capability, even having been through hell, to be able to turn this into something really amazing. But I think one of the first things that I want to be real about is this stuff doesn't happen overnight. Doesn't really probably happen in a year, maybe even 2. It's a long process. But for those of us who have experienced some major form of setback or loss in life, it also can be one of the best, I'll make sure I don't get run over by this car here, it can be one of the best, most amazing setups for a completely amazing, beautiful, wonderful future. Now again, that doesn't take away from the terrible circumstance that you've dealt with. But you're here, and my greatest hope is you're here in 5 years and 10 years, and I don't know how old you are, so hopefully another 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And if that's the case, then it would be much better if it was an amazing existence with an awesome origin story that started from a really bad circumstance versus just a long, slow, fairly worthless existence full of escapism, gluttony, consumption, sloth, the things that I found myself doing, laying around playing video games and getting intoxicated and stuffing my face with pizza and burritos just to try to bear my existence. Now, I don't know how recent everything that you've gone through has been. Hopefully a little ways down the road, because I couldn't really say what to do if this is all extremely recent. Not say what to do, but I can't I'm not the right guy to give good coping advice for grieving in the early stages of some really major loss. What I can say is once you get past that point, there is a very clear path that will work for anyone and everyone if they're willing to commit to it. And I'm not saying that you can't be involved with any sort of groups, association, church, or whatever, but this path that I found, I did it all on my own. I've never been to an AA meeting. I don't go to church. I don't have, the only support group I've had is a Facebook group of about 300 people, a really awesome group. And it's, they do Zoom meetings. I attended too. That wasn't really what I needed. I think they have a lot of value, but I just got on there to type, just to chat every once in a while. So let me tell you a little bit about this path. And I'm going to try to do my best to preface this with explaining the outcome of what the target is. My video I just put out mentioned keeping promises to myself. Ooh, hey, there's a good lighted empty parking lot. Let's go down there, that way you can see my face. So when I started all this, I was on a long path, with failed business, injury, failed marriage, lost a life. I'd lost my identity multiple times, first with the business, then losing my life. I spent 7 years building out in that ski town, which was my escape from from my failed business. I figured, hey, I might as well go and try to do something I enjoy, and it was my dream to be out in that ski town. So, I lost my identity multiple times, and at the end of it, it just went from this guy who could do anything at one point to someone who just reached to the bottle for everything. And that person was taking small losses all day, every day. I was proving to myself over and over again that I was not living to the standards that I knew deep down in my heart were worthy of this amazing body, this amazing life, this amazing existence that's such a gift. And my family, they never knew how bad it was. There was no real alcohol problems in my family. My parents are absolutely amazing. I was letting them down too. My parents, my grandparents invested in a college degree. Things weren't working out. I didn't fit into that. So I just kept teaching myself and reinforcing over and over again with every slice of pizza, every hour of my life wasted playing video games, every alcoholic beverage drank, every stupid decision I made, getting behind the wheel and worse. That was the identity that I had taken on, and I showed myself every day. I proved it to myself every day through my actions. And it's not possible for anyone to just say, hey, I'm going to go be confident now. I'm going to be a different person. I'm going to be better, and then it just happens. The thing that changes it all is consistently proving to yourself over and over again through habits, through behavior, that you are a badass, amazing, capable person. And you don't develop that feeling after going to the gym for a week. You don't develop that feeling after being alcohol-free for a couple weeks. This stuff takes real time. But you can make a decision in a single moment to commit to that path. You have to keep making the decision all day, every day to continue to follow that path. And motivation is a joke. Forget about motivation. You have to be ready to, all at the beginning, to be prepared that this isn't about motivation. This is, I'm going to choose a path where I put in work every day and I make promises to myself every day that I keep every single day and I don't backstep. And with time, those promises start to compound. You start to realize, oh wait, this dude really, and this is, oh, by the way, seltzer water. I'm not walking around with a beer. So anyways, you get to start thinking about yourself as a person who does do the hard work every day in the gym, who does make the sacrifice and build strength through restraint by choosing not to drink, by choosing not to eat unhealthy, by choosing not to give up valuable hours of your life for video games or Netflix, or trading hours for dollars to then trade those dollars for some crap on Amazon that serves no purpose. And it's really hard at first to understand what this stuff actually means, what you're actually doing by making these changes. And this didn't happen for me overnight. You know, I've said it before, it took almost 2 years from the time I set foot into the gym, and I was very committed to that fitness life. It took me almost 2 years before I was able to set down the drink for the very last time. And I think I'm at 384 days maybe, I don't know, not quite 390, so I'm still somewhat new into this sobriety life, but you know, by the time I hit 90 days, I was really coasting. I said I was going to do this for 6 months, and at 90 days, I said I'm going to do it for a year. By 6 months, I was like, I'm done forever, and you've just seen the result of that year now. I know I'm going to go all over the place, and I might not be very articulate in actually making the important part of this point, but I'm sure going to try, and I hope I've kept your attention this long. Again, this is just for you, Eddie. You know, if somebody else ever finds value out of this video, I hope I can influence somebody else as well. But maybe there's something in here. Maybe there's a tidbit of information that you can come back to. So, the thing that turned everything around for me, that gave me the strength, that gave me the self-belief, that gave me the resilience to put down the drink, was going in the gym consistently and doing that hard-ass work. Now, I had some things to get through. I overdid it. 3.5 hours was a pretty normal amount of time in there. 4 hours wasn't completely uncommon. I hurt myself. You know, I didn't take any days off. I ended up with tendonitis. I had some problems, but it's what I had to do at the time. And there were times where I would go and I would just kick my own ass in the gym and work out way too much. And then after it was all done and I could barely move, and I'd go and I'd get on the elliptical and I'd get started and I'd get my heart rate up to like 190, something stupid, and I would go for an hour. My eyes would be closed and I'd just be crying and I'd just go, 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 go. And at the end of every one of those workouts, I felt better. I felt better by using my body in the manner that it was meant to be used, to be challenged, and my body was rewarding me by filling my brain, my heart with proper, good, healthy chemicals. They gave me, you know, maybe that's the dopamine too. It's probably that maybe it's the same thing as alcohol does for you. But with physical fitness, you know, I'd go and kick my ass in the gym and your dopamine goes up and then it slowly comes down for several hours. With alcohol, it spikes above baseline shortly and then it drops below baseline. And then you'll take another drink and it'll spike. Maybe it'll make it back its way back up above baseline and it'll drop a little further. And another drink, maybe you're just hitting baseline and then it drops further. And before you know it, you're drinking just to try to get yourself back to baseline again. And you feel terrible. You pass out. You wake up 5 hours later, because that's about how long the body's going to go on alcohol, with terrible sleep. And then your anxiety is going to wake you up, and now you've got 5 days. If you don't touch the drink, you've got 5 days of initial withdrawal before that initial withdrawal is worn out. And the way to cope with that, to make it disappear earlier, is to smash some more alcohol. And then the same thing starts over. Maybe you'll go up above baseline for a little while and you'll drop, and then you'll have more. and it'll go above baseline a little less, and a few more drinks, and you're way below baseline, and your drinks are only bringing you beneath baseline. You're not even getting that benefit the outcome that you're shooting for. So again, it took me a while once I got started in the gym, but the amazing thing about doing that, about just going hard in the gym, was that I didn't ever back down. Like, the first day I walked in, I was like, I'm doing this. This is my life. I'm never quitting. I'm going to do this forever. I'm never going to give up. I'm not going to do it half-ass. And over time, I began to build up confidence and self-belief. And with that, I became stronger and more capable of restraining myself from eating bad food. And I had this bright idea. I made it off without alcohol for 30 days. Thought I had this thing under control. And then for the next year and a half, I ended up waking up with my truck parked sideways across 3 lanes, not 3 parking spaces, somehow not getting a DUI. Kind of hope my parents don't even see this, but I remember taking a nap in some gravel by a busy road right by my car because I couldn't find my way back to it. So after my first 30 days, things got as bad as they'd ever been because I hadn't actually beaten it. I was white knuckling it. I was just trying to push through. But I never stopped working out, even through all that. And eventually, I kept eating better. And before I left, I said that I wasn't going to drink after I crossed over the border to New Mexico because there was cannabis around. Oh, there was another option. But 18 days before I departed, I went out, had a drink with my brother, caught word that he was out talking trash behind my back about my challenge with alcohol instead of supporting me. And that's a challenging relationship. He's really not I don't let him too close into my life because there's a lot of negative impact on my life when he's around. So I quit earlier than I planned. But the catalyst, the beginning to everything for me, was getting my ass in the gym and never missing the days I was supposed to be there, and going until I had to force myself to take a break because my elbows were so messed up, my knees were messed up. I'm not saying anybody else should go that hard, but that's what I needed to do at that time, and I found what my body, how it would respond. And I built some resilience. I got pretty tough, I can't not go to the gym now. It kills me. I usually do 5 days on, 1 day off, and if I do 2 days off, I start to go a little crazy. So there's a little bit more to this message. I hope I've still got you with me here. But by keeping those promises to myself, I developed the strength, the capability to restrain, and I developed enough self-belief and craziness to sit down. I'll probably point you to a podcast I made. I took some real time. I said, okay, who am I? Who do I want to be? And what do I want to do with my life? And I said, I don't know exactly, but I know I've got this really cool vehicle and I need to do something to get the hell out of here and try something different. And it sounds like you've found yourself a new environment, which is really good. Being in my hometown here, it's weird. I never had cravings the whole time I was out on the coast. That was an adventure far away from everything I know. Now I'm back here, and as much as I love my friends and family, I think it's a great place for me to visit, but I don't know that I'm never going to be influenced by this place to start drinking again. But the old familiarity and the old habits have brought up a feeling that I didn't really have the whole time I was on the road while I'm here. And there's no real easy escape for me right now. There's some amazing things happening in my life. I didn't plan on staying for more than a few weeks to maybe a few months, but something I didn't plan on has blossomed into something amazing, and that, like everything else good that's happening, I promise, is the result of having gotten in the gym and putting down the drink. Now, I'll put this into a couple words, and maybe you can hang on to these. Finding your purpose is important, but if you don't have purpose yet, you can still start moving towards it, because this whole getting fit and getting sober thing will make you the most strong, most capable, most proud version of yourself. And that person who is proud of who he is in every single way, every single day, that person is capable of doing anything. So, from a really good income that you had, you obviously have value that you can bring to an employer. But I believe you have more value that you could bring into the world than they ever could have paid you. And the only way to be able to truly, truly seize upon that and do everything amazing that you can possibly do in your life is to become that individual that you admire most within yourself in every single way. And you do that by keeping these promises to yourself. And keeping those promises to yourself starts, for me, with physical fitness. And I believe this goes across the board. So you create the individual you admire most within yourself. And this is not my words. I learned these from Wes Watson, the guy that I put on there. This dude's a prisoner. He's a lot different than me. Ex-prisoner. Super successful guy now. He's led thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to developing themselves into something amazing. And he helped me start to really articulate and figure out and choose my path, even though I'm dramatically different than that guy. But his message resonated very well with me. So I found him around the same time I started working out, and I was fortunate. I knew in the back of my mind, I knew for a fact that that change I was making was a life commitment, with or without this guy. But he made everything make so much more sense. So as you start to consistently keep those promises through habits, through the habits of working out, through the habits of eating right, develop these habits every day, act the same way, no matter whether things are good or bad, always work out, always eat right. For me, I basically got 4, it's always work out, always eat right, never drink, always keep creating. And if my videos don't get traction, if nobody sees, if nobody cares for a long time, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep following the exact same habits over and over again, every single day. Repetition, compounding, over time, not over 6 months, not over 3 months, not over a year, for my life. I feel like 5 years, half of a decade is where all of the foundational work I've been putting in will start to really pay off. So I feel like I'm barely halfway there. But man, I'm sure a long ways away from where I started 3 years ago. There's some pictures of me floating around on different videos, when I was just out of shape, skinny and fat, defeated, ashamed of myself, walking into the gym. Planet Fitness too, I was ashamed in Planet Fitness, and if you are going to feel comfortable in a gym, you're not going to feel any more comfortable anywhere else than Planet Fitness. So there's a lot of steps from where you are right now to where I know that you can be. And right now, at this moment, what you need is something actionable. And so, without being focused on anything else, I believe that step 1 is to commit to yourself. Commit to yourself to creating the individual that you admire within yourself in every single way, and commit to yourself to getting in better shape with habits. 5 days a week, bare minimum, an hour a day, bare minimum. Don't half-ass anything. I don't care if you're doing power yoga, power lifting, you're running, for me, I got into strength training for aesthetics, to sculpt my body, to get really good posture, and to become very, make sure all my movements are very functional. I was down. My ex-wife just didn't bother coming home a lot of time. Now, don't get me wrong, I didn't really give her a lot to offer. I didn't offer a lot, neither did she. But I had no self-confidence about women, and instead of trying to run around and chase them, I was like, hey, how about I just make myself really freaking awesome, and then they'll come to me instead. And, I'm 3 years into this, and like, yeah, they are drawn to me now. But I'm not yet willing to give up any of my time and energy that this is just the very beginning of my purpose starting to pay off. The fact that I've got somebody, a handful of people that I've connected with, some that need some guidance, some that are on a very similar path. I haven't made my way to where I belong sitting at the table yet with the people who have really succeeded, who have really killed it. But I'm not slowing down. I'm not stopping. I've got that self-belief now, and it's my purpose in life to help to learn how to help others find this path. And again, there's a lot of steps, but none of those matter right now except for developing a new good set of habits. And step one is choosing whichever form of physical fitness that you want and committing to it religiously, committing to it the same, I have to do this the same as I have to breathe. I mean, you might not want to get up, and maybe some days you wouldn't get up, but because you've now got this new fitness life, you're going to get up and do your fitness. And you're going to put in the work. And in a movie, they're going to play some nice music, and all of a sudden after a cool little montage, all the hard work's been done and you feel real excited and you see something amazing. The reality is nobody sees the hard work behind the scenes, and that hard work behind the scenes is what creates greatness. It's what takes a person who is broken, who could be going down a path that they never turn around from, and they take that path and they turn it 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and say, I'm taking charge of this. I can't control what happened to me, but I can control how I respond. And that's, if you're not familiar with Stoicism and with I think Ryan Holiday, the Daily Stoic, there's a lot of really great life philosophy out there. And that's, I think that's the best foundational quote from the whole thing. I can't control what happens to me. All I can do is control how I respond. And again, I know, dude, you've gone through some stuff. So I'm not trying to take away from that. I'm not trying to take away from that at all. But you're at an inflection point. You made the effort to move out of the old environment into a different environment. You reached out to me for some direction. So you know in your heart that there is something better for you out there. And again, there are a lot of steps beyond this, but at least for me, I'm a very linear thinker. Maybe some people are able to say, okay, now I'm getting in the gym, now I'm dropping all the bad food, now I'm dropping the alcohol, but I think it's a long process that gets just a little better and a little better and a little better and a little better. And for me, even if you decide to go work out in the gym, with similar goals as mine, what I would say is for the first 60 plus days, it doesn't really even matter what you're doing. As long as you aren't hurting yourself, you're not doing anything that's damaging your joints, as long as you're doing it consistently, as long as you're going in there, every time you tell yourself you're going to go, you get in there and go. And when you get in there, you don't half-ass it. And even after that first 60 days, something is going to happen inside of you. You will feel different. A switch is going to flip. Maybe it's at 60 days, maybe it's at 90 days. You're going to start feeling something completely different about that hard work that you're putting in. You're going to start to crave it. You're going to start to get addicted to the feeling of relief and just the positive emotions and the positive chemicals and everything good that comes out of challenging our bodies in the way that nature, in the way that whatever God, if you believe in a God, intended. And I do believe in God. I'm not a real big fan of organizations, but me and God, we're pretty good. So we'll keep off that. That's a whole different story of what led me to that, especially coming up in such a religious family. But I probably could have put this whole message together and said the whole thing in 5 minutes. So I hope you made it all the way to the end, because there is something here of true value. And to me, that is step one. Step one for everything is to get your butt into the gym, start putting in the hard work. Or if it's not the gym, then it's, dude, I'm telling you, I've done yoga that kicked my butt. Calisthenics, if you're interested in calisthenics, maybe it's distance running, combat sports, dude, that's something I need to get into. I avoided it. That's something I need. Imagine how much confidence you get when you know you can just kick most people's asses. So combat sports, what an amazing workout. Maybe boxing or jiu-jitsu or whatever could be what you want to do. So figure out what type of physical fitness you want to do and commit to that like your life depends on it, because in all reality, it kind of does. The life that you could be living starts with working hard at whatever form of physical fitness you choose. And another Wes Watson quote, he might have gotten this somewhere else too. The cost of I'm tripping on my words. The cost of procrastination is the life you could have lived. So the longer you put off the first steps of getting into the gym or getting into whatever type of physical fitness, the longer you're putting off all the amazing things that this world has to offer you, this life has to offer you on the other side of the hardships you're going through now. The thing is, the lower a person has gone, the harder their life has been, the worse their loss has been, the greater of a man, the greater of a person they're going to be on the other side of that. As long as you do the work, you put in the work and you keep those promises for yourself, you've gone through something really hard. You have the capability to be way more amazing, influential, capable than me. I mean, you've already had a better salary than I ever had, but I can promise you this, I'm going to be wildly successful in this life. Not in a way of comparison. I know for a fact, no matter how weird the world gets, I'm going to do great. I'm going to do fine. And it's all because of the first day, November 2nd, 2021, I stepped into that gym. And that's when I changed my life. And that's what you need to do. And I believe you can do it. And I really hope for you that you can. Not that you can, that you do, that you choose to. So, there we go. Packaged it up. Only took, 33 minutes to give you a 7-minute response. I really hope this is of value. And, if you didn't make it all the way through, Eddie, hopefully somebody out there does. Because it was slow for me to put that all together. But if you get the gist of it, it's the best message. All right. Thank you for watching my story. Thanks for reaching out to me for a little direction. I hope this was helpful to you. Best wishes.